This is the Garden of English. I'm Tim Freitas, and today we're going to go over body paragraphing for synthesis, so you're going to want to check it out. Okay, what you're going to want to do now that you're here is you're going to want to just click like and subscribe. And the reason why is because at the Garden of English, we have covered all of the elements of the AP exam in terms of essay writing, and you're going to want to check those out. And we're going to continue to give out little pointers and whatnot as the exam approaches, and you don't want to miss any of those. So it also helps us out. Anyway, we are here today to talk about our synthesis paragraph, and we are continuing to actually discuss a synthesis prompt that I wrote about fear and horror. And if you have not seen any of the videos about that, you're going to want to check up here for those videos, and you're going to want to watch them in order because it's going to help you understand where we are at. Today we are talking about body paragraphing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over just the mechanics of body paragraphing. I'll give you basic structures and some tips and whatnot. So we might as well just get right into things. By the way, you can actually find links to the prompt that I'm using right down below in the description down below. You'll also find some affiliate links down there to some other cool things that I support that can and will help you study for your AP exams or prepare your classes for their AP exams. Okay, but anyway, so we have our synthesis prompt, and our synthesis prompt says something along the lines of develop a position on how commercializing fear and horror influence how individuals respond to the unknown and the macabre. So that's kind of our prompt here, and like I said, you can find that in the description down below. And then we have our sources, and we've already gone through all of those things, and now we have to actually produce body paragraphs. Now, what I decided to do today is, if you've been watching any of my videos, you know that I don't like horror films. And of course, it would make way more sense for me to write an argument that says, hey, this idea of commercializing fear and horror is terrible for an individual's psyche, and it leads to bad behavior and whatnot. And because that's what I would be expected to do, I decided to write from a different perspective. And the reason why is because we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to say, okay, can we argue for the other side objectively? And I decided that I wanted to try to do that. So what I've done here is I've actually written a thesis in response to this prompt. How does commercializing fear and horror get individuals to respond to the unknown and the macabre? And here's my thesis, and now we're going to talk about how the thesis will guide our body paragraphs, and then I'll show you what a body paragraph should do. So the thesis says, since it's documented that horror-based entertainment potentially has negative effects on psychological health, it may seem like such media should be disregarded. However, commercialized fear is beneficial to individuals because such entertainment provides them with safe ways to understand not only the mysterious elements of life, but also a little more about themselves. And so notice that I'm actually arguing that, hey, maybe there are decent outcomes from this idea of commercializing fear and horror with horror-based entertainment. So now what's going to happen is this. I have to follow my thesis here, and my thesis is going to suggest up front, if I'm writing this paragraph in full, I do have to concede that there does seem to be some negative outcomes that psychologically that such media does kind of push. So I'm not telling you that this is my first body paragraph. I'm just saying this is a body paragraph somewhere in my paper. You will notice, though, that my topic sentence starts with the word although, so it does admit that I'm going to start with some sort of a concession or a counter argument. So that does fit in the scheme of my thesis, but I want you to just think right now, okay, when I think about body paragraphing, let's focus on that. But notice here, I start with an although, and my although is actually going to clarify the negative psychological effects here. And look at my topic sentence here. Now, this doesn't mean that you start every topic sentence with although. What you need to know about topic sentences is this. A topic sentence should have some sort of transitional language. Transitional language. We'll type that in right now. It should have a reference to your example, and it should have your argument. And it doesn't matter what order those go in as long as it makes sense, okay? Your topic sentence does not have to have a counter argument. Your argument doesn't have to have a counter argument. If you have questions about counter arguments, by the way, you can actually check out this video up here, okay, which deals about which talks about when you should and should not include counter arguments in your arguments that you write. But anyway, what we want to know is, do we have foundational transitional language, a reference to your example, and your argument? Because that's going to help us understand what the topic sentence is doing. It's preparing us to say, okay, what is this paragraph actually going to be about? So please note here, my topic sentence does indeed suggest that I'm following my thesis. And it says, Although early exposure to horror-based entertainment can potentially lead some to develop anxiety disorders or an unhealthy interest in the occult and paranormal, studies seem to suggest that when this type of entertainment is consumed in appropriate settings, the end results are actually quite enriching for an individual. So that's my topic sentence. My topic sentence, you'll notice, does deal with a little bit of this concession that I put in my thesis. So it's like, okay, this does fit as a first body paragraph. You'll also notice, too, that I did put some source material in my topic sentence. Let me make this very clear. I do not encourage my kids to do this unless they are actually putting this source material in as a counter argument. Really, you don't want to put source material in the topic sentence unless you really know what you're doing. And the reason why is because typically your topic sentence, it goes topic sentence, evidence, commentary. That's the easiest way to structure your paragraph. And if you put your evidence in your topic sentence as well, you're skipping out a very important part that organizes your paper for a line of reasoning. So that's just something to consider. Anyway, you'll notice that my topic sentence here, though, does kind of dismiss, right, this idea or concede this idea that this is true. It can lead some to develop anxiety disorders and an unhealthy interest in the occult and paranormal. That's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on the next part. Notice how it says studies seem to suggest that when this type of entertainment is consumed in appropriate settings, the end results are actually quite enriching for an individual. So now notice, right here is the reference to my example, and then I've got my argument right here. My argument is when this is done in an appropriate setting, so I'm going to talk about that. And then it also says it can be enriching for an individual to actually experience this type of entertainment. So now I need to prove that there are studies that say this, and then I need to explain how those studies show that this can be enriching to an individual. And if I do that in my paragraph, we're good. So what I'm also suggesting here, folks, is this, that if I got rid of my little concession right here, I could still have a strong paragraph if I just got rid of it, right? And I started with, studies seem to suggest this is the case. However, if I were to get rid of this concession, this would not be my first body paragraph in my paper. And that's because that would then say commercialized fear is beneficial, and therefore I would have to do that after I deal with this concession that starts my thesis, because my thesis is going to order how I go through my paper, okay? So anyway, I've got my topic sentence. Now I need to include textual evidence of studies that seem to suggest that this can be enriching. So notice what I do here. I've got a little bit of transitional language here. That's what this purple stands for. So the green stands for, hey, here's my textual evidence from studies. The pink here stands for, hey, this is my argument, right? Appropriate settings can be enriching for an individual. And we've got this kind of purple language here. That's going to be transitional language that helps maintain a line of reasoning. So I have, for example, one commonality that researchers often observe about those who attend horror movies is that most people, no matter the age, rarely view these films alone, as they rehearse possible threatening scenarios that are experienced in the films. Notice what I did here. I actually took from two different studies, from two different sources, and I synthesized that into my own sentence. This is how you know when synthesis is done really well. Because if I were to read that and you didn't see the quotes in the citations, you couldn't tell where my words end and your words begin. That is strong synthesis here. And I've pulled it from what the research says in these two sources, okay? So now I need to talk about how not viewing these films alone and dealing with these life-threatening scenarios in a safe way, how does that become enriching for people? So that's where the commentary comes in. Now, I have a very basic commentary template that I start my kids off on. I then teach them to break free from this, but this basic commentary template is actually strong. You're going to see it as I go throughout. The basic template has students say, this evidence, which we just mentioned here, proves, disproves, challenges, refutes, suggests, implies any type of verb that fits, right? Most often up here, right? See how it says suggests up here? I could pull it straight down if I wanted to. So we want to say this evidence, put a good verb there. And then we put the argument from the topic sentence right in here. So we're going to put the argument, I can spell, argument from topic sentence. Because, and then you explain how the evidence does so. This word because is just so important. And this is, if you struggle with commentary, I want you to go back to your last paper and see after you put in evidence, look at your next sentence. Did you just make a claim, this shows this, or this does this? If you put the word because at the end of that sentence, I promise you, you would actually have stronger commentary. So We want this word because here. And you're going to explain how your evidence proves your claim or claims from your topic sentence and then relates to your thesis. So we're going to actually put a little S here, right, as well. So watch what happens here. I've got my studies. I need to say that this is an appropriate setting, and I need to show how this is beneficial to an individual. Here's the stats here, right? People don't do it alone, and they rehearse possibly life-threatening situations, but in a safe and contained setting. So here we go. This evidence proves the enriching ability of horror films. Now notice what I did here, okay, is I just pulled that idea, maybe with synonyms or exact language, from my topic sentence. So you're going to see it traced all the way down. So this evidence proves the enriching ability of horror films because enjoying such entertainment actually establishes a supportive social adventure, one in which any viewer is actually trying to show others he or she is strong enough to make it through the film and receive the natural high provided by the rush of adrenaline. So notice what I did here is that as I'm providing my commentary, and this is a sophisticated move, I'm now taking some evidence from a source and I'm actually putting it in my commentary as well. And once again, it flows. You can't tell where my words end and the quotes begin, besides the fact that you can see these quotation marks. So this is really looking nice here because I'm explaining how is this enriching? Because it puts you in a social setting that's supportive. That's a good thing. And then you can actually experience these kind of natural highs from the rush of the adrenaline, and you get to do it with your friends. Super cool. So now look at what I do. As I say, it's an enriching, right, appropriate setting for individuals. Look at how I then connect it. I say, furthermore, viewing these films with friends is an entirely appropriate setting. So I go back to that similar idea by pulling that same language down, since it increases feelings of relative safety, which is particularly important when exposing oneself to potentially traumatic content, no matter how unrealistic it is. Now, notice that I put the word since right here. I could put the word because there, and this would still make sense. I'm just trying not to repeat the word because so much. Good commentary is going to be loaded with cause and effect language, and you'll actually see that with all of my blue language that's highlighted here. That's why this is highlighted blue. Okay, so I tried to color code this for you. I'll go through what every part of this means. Another part of commentary, though, is also really trying to rely on strong verbs and stereotypes and word connotations. You need to articulate those. And one of the things that you'll notice is that I've got these yellow words here. These are the verbs that I'm picking. I'm not just saying says and claims and states. Those are garbage verbs. We don't want that. We want strong verbs. And so because of that, I'm really looking, if you look at my yellow words here, you're going to notice that they're connotatively meaningful. And we want that, okay? And what's underlined here is a stereotype that I'm bringing out, right? When it's just an assumption that I have, right? When you're exposing someone to traumatic content or yourself to that, it's nice to have people around to support you, okay? And because of that, you'll feel safer. Let me continue my commentary. Such an experience in this sense is also potentially beneficial. So once we do it in a social setting because it's appropriate and we feel safe, it's also potentially beneficial, same argument for my topic sentence, for the consumer due to the fact that he or she can bond with others who were able, or we should actually change that to are, right? Can bond with others who are able to empathize with his or her experiences. So now look at what I'm doing here is I'm connecting all of my commentary and reasoning together. And this is enriching because it's a social setting, it's an appropriate setting, and this is also potentially beneficial, which is just another way to say enriching. So I've got that same idea all the way throughout. As I continue. While being scared, individuals often exhibit a side of vulnerability in moments like these, while being scared, individuals often exhibit a side of vulnerability. And in moments like these, having the support of friends and or peers makes it easier to overcome the fictional dilemmas. That right there is a straight assumption. That's a stereotype that I know that's allowing me to connect how this can be enriching. So I put it right in there and I underlined it. Now that I provide the commentary, I'm like, you know what though? I need to go a little bit further here. So I'm going to introduce some more evidence and I'm going to have a layered paragraph, right? And another study. Okay, because that's what I'm talking about research, right? So I have, in addition, Jeffrey Goldstein, a professor who studies violent entertainment, reminds people that the benefit of many slasher thrasher movies is that they also often provide just resolutions to their storylines. Notice what I did here is I started to include more research. First of all, when I mentioned Jeffrey Goldstein, I didn't just say his name and then go into he reminds people. I put his credentials there. Okay, super important. I'm going to go over that in my next video as to why. Okay, but also notice that I put the word reminds. I didn't say says, states, or claims. In fact, those three verbs kind of suck, right? Use strong verbs. We want to say things like theorize, suggest, remind, recount, argues. Those are way better verbs. We want to pick those out, okay? But notice that I'm also talking about another study that talks about the desire for human beings to have a just resolution. Okay, well, how is this beneficial? I need to provide the commentary for that, and I do that right here. Such uplifting notes stand to remind people about the difference between truth and fiction and promote the positive ideal that justice is possible. And notice that I put source C at the end of the sentence and not right here. That's because all of it comes from source C. Even if they don't end justly, that would be those movies, these movies can act as covert rehearsals which help viewers cope with the real-life monsters, should consumers run into them. Thus, so know this word thus right here is also that kind of cause and effect language. We'll highlight that blue. Thus, emerging from the theaters, right, if we were to watch a film like this, emerging from the theaters with stronger emotional bonds, renewed hopes for a just world, a stronger sense of self-determination, and even a greater understanding of all the unknown that could go wrong in life is certainly worth the inexpensive cost of watching a countdown to someone's head exploding, source A. And that's the end of my paragraph. That, folks, is a strong paragraph with strong commentary and strong synthesis. And this is what we're trying to do. Now, I do have a couple notes on the bottom of this document. And just so you know, this document will indeed can be found right in the description down below. Okay? My first note is that when you provide commentary, what you want to do is you want to rely heavily on cause and effect language. And I give examples of some here. Because, due to, so, since, thus, consequently, therefore, as, etc. Okay? Cause and effect language should be showing up all throughout. That's why I've got so much blue. In here. Okay? And I've bolded it for you just so it sticks out. Also, when you provide commentary, you want to articulate assumptions and stereotypes in your understandings of the world to connect the evidence to your claims. That's what I do here with my underlined parts, those kind of assumptions. Okay? And then I also say, when you provide commentary, you want to really focus on the verbs that you use. You put in the best verbs possible, and commentary is actually going to be implied as you use them. It's really precise here. And I've highlighted all of those in yellow for you to see. Okay? Now, one other note, and this is about sophisticated synthesis, is this. Your commentary will incorporate nuggets of quotes from other sources as well, and therefore your ideas will be fully synthetic. I mean, if you read my topic sentence, my evidence, and my commentary, you will see these quotes popping in and out consistently, and you're going to be like, wow, that really fits in, but I know what his argument is. His argument is that viewing these, it can be socially and personally beneficial in understanding the unknown and even ourselves. And that's exactly what my topic sentence says, and that relates directly to my thesis as well. And so because of that, I've got a perfectly clear line of reasoning, and I can go right into my next topic sentence to support this, which will then guide my next body paragraph to support this, okay? So that's how you actually want to produce body paragraphs, and you want to do preferably 2 to 3. You'll notice that I pulled from a myriad of sources there. And also, you might want to go back and just look at how I included source A with just a quick little description at the end. That is citing the source. I don't need to provide commentary for that because it just fits directly in with my ideas. I was providing commentary with what came before. Okay, so we do want to recognize such things. Now, if this video is helpful, I want to ask that you help us by clicking like and subscribe. It's the easiest thing that you can do, right? The Garden of English does encourage all of us here at the Garden of English. It's not actually just me. I'm just the one you see the most, right? We encourage you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook and Instagram because we are active on there. As I've mentioned before, I do have a TikTok that I do update quasi-regularly. I'm still trying to get in the habit of that. And whatnot. We have affiliate links down below that will offer you opportunities to gain support in your classroom or for your AP and just your AP learning in general. particularly if you are looking for other ways to learn about the content. There's a textbook down there that I encourage you to consider purchasing because the content in there is excellent. I also co-authored it, so I'm biased here. But nonetheless, please note that is the case. We've got links to merch in our description and things like that. And in all of this, though, just watching the videos helps support us as well. And I'm thankful that we can offer an opportunity to help you, especially during this COVID time as well. So with that being said, we're going to film another video this weekend where it talks about the common mistakes of synthesis. And I hope that you all look in and check in on that as well. I have a really good friend joining me with that who is 10 times the teacher that I will ever be. And I'm super grateful that she's willing to join up with us. So with that being said, until next video, have a great one.